All right, you guys, welcome to Hope Ignited. Look, I have honestly never said this. This is my favorite episode we've ever done.
Sorry to everybody else who came before this, but this was
I'm not like knocking them. I'm just like level up a little bit, maybe. I mean,
well, I think we needed to level up, and it was getting someone like this guy who came in that put it to another level. 100%.
I would agree that I think he was on fire, but we were on fire. Definitely the best
you
versions.
You were on fire. Give me some.
Yeah, you deserve it. On fire. Speaking of on fire, how about these outfits?
Okay, I did. First of all, what's up? What's up with the earrings? These are amazing. You guys can see this?
I mean, you
may notice something here. This is sort of a football-related outfit.
It's a tad bit confusing because this is an NFL nod while this is a college football nod. But this is also like my Saints controversy forever. I will always wear these in honor of Roger Goodell. Please tag him. Please watch this, Roger. We love you. Thanks for all you do for NBCF, but also step it up for the Saints. And also Deflategate. I'll forever wear these just in honor of, all the years Tom Brady beat Drew Brees.
Well, and so what is your jersey? Okay, so again, if you are listening to this, we highly encourage you to pop on YouTube and watch this, so everything we say will make sense.
Yeah.
If you want our audio listeners, Ashley's wearing a Vikings jersey.
Incorrect. Incorrect.
No, it's the other team that has purple and yellow. Yes. LSU.
The greatest college football team ever of all time. Mm-hmm. You can Google it. If you were to ask Alexa, if you were to ask Siri, they would say the 2019 LSU Tigers. People know this. I know that we do have a really cool video coming out very soon where you will get to have a full studio tour. But people ask us all the time in the comments, what's with the shelves behind you? What are those things on the shelves behind you? So we thought just quickly, we do a really short intro and tell people a little bit about kind of our affinity and our loyalty to our college football teams.
Yeah. So I'm wearing my jersey there. Let me sneak it in. Well, not jersey. I don't have a jersey for Texas Tech, but this is Texas Tech Red Raiders, guns up. Went there, graduated in 98. Got a lot of buddies still.
98.
Actually haven't been out to a game, though, since 1999.
What a fan you are.
I'm not a great alum, I gotta be honest.
Big fan. 1998.
99.
For those of you that
when
weren't
we still thought
Y2K
was going to happen.
Yeah, we all lived down in basements and ate beanie weenies just in case. This is people don't. The younger generations that are watching this podcast are like, oh, 1998. That was like forever ago.
Well, I mean, here's what's crazy. It was pre-Google, pre-YouTube. It was the internet had only been around for like really 4 or 5 years.
Pre-social media.
It's so wild. Everything that we just kind of take for granted now. Yeah. Don't you wish you could go? I fantasize about this all the time, going back in time to like 1995 or something and having like a couple $100,000 to invest.
Here's a fun fact. We fantasize about very different things.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important for people to understand that I have been to an LSU game and I am a true fan of my team. The other thing that's really important is Texas Tech, for those of you that are watching that maybe don't like sports or college football, let me help you out. Google image Cliff Kingsbury. You're welcome. You're welcome in advance.
Oh, no.
You'll also see that LSU beat Tech in a bowl game not too long ago. I saw that game in Houston where I did wear a jersey for the team that I am actually loyal to. Back to you, Kevin.
What's the arrest record on the current roster? Are they doing good?
Look, started from the bottom, now we're here.
Upstanding citizens?
Don't you think that adversity makes champions? I think that you've got it. Look, Ed Orgeron.
Also a lot of money.
There's
paid off behind the scenes with
Booster
briefcases
Club.
to agents.
I'm a part of it. I'm just saying.
The Booster Club.
At the end of the day, the shelves behind us mark some pretty significant teams.
You could see the corner a little bit of one. We'll dig in at some point and show it, but we've got these little things in the background.
You'll see it on the studio tour.
Loyalty to our teams. Okay, so like, first of all, how did you become a fan of LSU?
I was born, I'm from Louisiana. I was born in Arkansas, which means I'm related to everybody watching today. Hey, sisters. Hey, brothers. But then I grew up in Louisiana.
Destiny.
And that was our state school. I mean, it didn't matter. Actually, at the college that I went to, the very small school, the only school that's 90% on a bayou in Monroe, Louisiana, we would get paid money. They would give you vouchers to the book club to not wear LSU stuff to our own football games.
Yeah.
But I think it's not a knock to ULM because they beat Alabama in 2017, but who's counting? It's that, it's the state school. I think no matter where you live, at least from my perspective, a lot of people are fans of the state school. Unless it's Texas, because there's like 25 million state schools. But, people are UT fans here. Right.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys. Like if Arizona, if you're in Arizona or New Mexico or Kansas, you're a Cowboys fan for the most part. Well, not Kansas now,
not Louisiana,
because the Chiefs are good. But yeah, I mean, you kind of like gobble up what if you're good. The Yankees. I'm like, my gosh, if you go to any little like hat store, we were in a hat store in Hawaii, and they had like a whole wall of just Yankees hats because it's just one of those brands that dominates.
Yeah,
and I would say the Cowboys are very much like that. I mean, in terms of Yankees, like who we got? We got Yankees, Lakers, Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like, is that kind of the main?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the biggest
juggernauts?
They're the biggest brands in each of their respective sports. I think that they kind of own the market, and a lot of it are the players that they draft and just like being an ambassador of the sport. So yes, I would agree with those.
You know, one question I get a lot of times, like when my wife is asking something, or other people that just aren't really interested in sports, is like, why do you like sports so much, or like what do you get out of it? Like for you, I'd ask you that. Like, what is it about sports that draws you to it so much?
I genuinely believe, besides my freakishly good looks and sense of humor, that sports is what has propelled my professional and personal career so much. To be honest, no matter where I've traveled, doing sales, whatever role I've held within a company, one of the uniters is music and sports. I think that it's such an easy icebreaker. I think that it's the easiest way to walk into a room and to see a logo, to see a color, and to just jump into a conversation with somebody. I think it unites us all. That's why I think the Olympics are so popular, because I think for a 2-week period, people kind of set their indifferences aside and we just focus on healthy competition and unity. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of my favorite things about fantasy football, is because it's allowed me to set down my LSU and my New Orleans Saints ties. Even, there's fantasy baseball now, to stop being a fan of just one team, and you're kind of forced to fall in love with these players on other teams, and you find yourself rooting for them. It's one of the reasons.
You get into it quickly, don't you?
Yeah, I spend my kids' college education money on Red Zone every year because I love being able to watch all the teams score. And so I just think sports unites us. I think, again, no matter where you travel in the world, you will find people that are loyal and that will talk to you about. Now, it's not always the same sport. I mean, even here locally, we are seeing that the number one, we're just north of Dallas here in Frisco, Texas. The number one sport right now is cricket.
Yeah, cricket is blowing up here.
I don't know anything about cricket.
I don't either. I don't know. I just, So I would say, like, for me, what sports represents is, you were kind of getting at it a little bit, but it's like this. I love this movie quote from The Matrix where he said, "You don't really know anyone until you fought them." And I think that in society, like we're kind of tense, just as it is, and we're all trying to figure out what clan or group we're in, and tribe and all that kind of stuff. And I think sports is one of those chances for us to sort of like battle with other people.
Yeah.
And especially when you're playing it. That's why I always liked it, because you could be buddies with someone after you got done. You like rip each other's heads off on the basketball court, and then right after you're done, you go hang out and go eat burgers or something.
Yeah,
so,
you break bread and you pray.
Yeah, so we can basically be like fighting each other on a Sunday when it's your team and my team, and they go head to head, and then you get the feeling of beating the other person and they're all defeated, and then that flips around the next time they play. And I think people just kind of like that. I think it's like this little bit of a battle, and then you kind of get to see the real person when they're like punching their TV or something.
That's fair. I do think it brings out the worst version of me personally, but that's one of my greatest prayer requests, is that I could mature in my sports.
Have you ever broken anything after a loss?
Yes. Like, it's bad. Yeah.
I broke after the after the Mavericks loss in 2006 in Miami. One of the games where we just choked. I kicked a little in my brother's house, by the way, which is terrible. God rest his soul. I didn't kill my brother, just to be clear. The timing of that was really awkward. I kicked his toilet paper dispenser and just snapped it right off in the bathroom. And I went, oh, and then I came over and fixed a whole bunch of stuff at his house afterwards. He was like, I get it, man. I get it.
Well, if Charmin was ever going to be our sponsor, they aren't now. How many toilet paper rolls had to die during the last Cowboy season for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, no, I got control of that. That's the one that scared me. I saw the inner demon, whenever I kicked that toilet paper roll.
Speaking of Cowboys.
Yeah, how do we transition into our amazing guest again?
Let's toilet paper roll right into our guest.
Right,
you want to talk about one of the most loyal athletes of all time. I was not prepared for this interview in the sense of I am not near as old as you are. 11 years later in college, if anybody was doing that math earlier. Math is hard. I know. But literally one of the greatest just humans that I've ever met. Did you have any, I mean, you knew Darren going into our interview, but weren't you just so like enthusiastic and pumped up by our time we spent with him?
Yeah, he's a really inspirational person. I want to read a few of the things so you have a frame of reference for who he is. Darren is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Pro Bowl selection. The most important thing within that is he did it all with one team. He played for the Dallas Cowboys for his entire 12 years. And in that time, he's the official career tackle leader for the Dallas Cowboys. He had 1,350 career stops, and he retired in 2004. So he's in the Cowboys have this thing called the Ring of Honor, which is like their Hall of Fame for their players. Oftentimes, generally, I would say even like their Hall of Famers. So, I think that is the highest honor the organization could give him, because partly why he has that career totals because he stayed loyal to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy he was after that too. So, then Darren decides, he's like, okay, I've conquered that mountain. So I climbed Kilimanjaro. I guess I'll go do Everest now. And he decides he's going to start being a broadcaster and an analyst. And Darren just absolutely clicked with that. He said initially, as you'll hear in the interview, there are some challenges, but he got some great inspiration on the way. But the thing about him that you're going to hear in this, and that you really should have your kids listen to this, especially if your kids are in sports programs or anything like that, or they're struggling to be a student athlete, is the way that he talks about overcoming his grades and having to go, to see himself as both, not just an athlete where he gotten all his fulfillment, but an intellectual as well.
Agreed.
Like, hey, I'm actually a smart man. I can go accomplish things. And then he took that, and that's that fuel that he got from his success early on is what drove him into doing the analyst role and then nailing that. And he did that for 14 years. And then he goes, well, I got another mountain I'm going to climb. And there it is. And I'm going to be a commercial real estate broker.
It was incredible.
So he gets into that. And then now he's just killing in that. But all along the way, the theme is loyalty.
Yep.
Persistence.
Yep.
All those things you want to see from, a teammate or someone, a mentor that you look to. So I think it's no surprise that he's got all these kids and all these people who kind of look to him. And I mean, to your point on what defines someone as being great, I would say look at like a mix of things in their life. Like, you can be I would not call Michael Jordan a great man. He was in my opinion, the greatest basketball player.
Yeah.
But there's been enough kind of like trail of destruction behind him, with other people that, in his relationships where you wouldn't say that about, Michael Jordan. But then you get someone like him, or you get Brandon Carr, these guys who just have taken their platform and they're just investing time and time again in other people around them and in other people they don't even know. That's what makes me consider someone great.
Totally agree. The only other thing I would add to that, 2 things quickly before we jump into this episode. One is you will find out on this episode what tattoo Kevin's getting. It's a big deal. I know you guys lay awake at night wondering what tattoo he's getting. Watch the episode and you're going to find out. And then the second thing, and just kind of this final tidbit that I'll leave you with, this is a hot take. I'm going to say it one time. I'm going to say it one time only. He kind of made me want to be a Cowboys fan. Okay,
then he did so. He is a great man then.
He's moving mountains. He's saving baby. Like it was a big deal. He kind of made me want to be a Cowboys fan.
Well, you guys are in for a treat. It's truly inspirational. You don't have to be a sports fan to appreciate the wisdom that was coming out from Darren today. Enjoy this episode with what I would consider the greatest Dallas Cowboys defensive player of all time and one of the greatest people that I know.
Amen.
Darren Woodson, folks.
All right, you guys. Welcome back to the Hope Ignited table on a very Cowboys blue episode. Did you ever think you'd see the day?
Teenage Kevin right now is in. I would go back in a time machine and tell myself when I was standing there in Austin in the heat and
way before I was
watching
born.
at St. Edwards and those training camps, watching the Cowboys play, and to know that I was going to be interviewing Darren Woodson, I can't believe it. I'm so excited. I can't stand
Quite
it.
literally the greatest player. It's our show. We say what we want to say.
We say what we want to say, Darren.
So we'll say facts.
Yeah.
The greatest player to ever wear a Cowboys jersey. Welcome to the studio, Darren Woodson, you guys.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, all the lies have already started.
I'm here for it. These are straight facts. Hey, we know how busy you are, and I just want to say thank you for making time to be here. As the biggest Saints fan ever of all time, it's easy to be a fan of you because we'll get into this, but the person that you are off the field is just impressive, if not more impressive than anything you ever did on the turf. So thank you for making time to be here.
No problem.
Okay, now all the sucking up's over with. Let's get into the good stuff. No, man, for real. Thank you for taking the time to come in here. I know a lot of Cowboys fans, over the years. So obviously, I grew up in Dallas and big Cowboys fans. We always want to go back to that time period, the golden years.
Yeah.
It's like it's really easy to do because a whole lot happened since then. But
and they've had so many opportunities, though, right?
They've
had a ton of opportunities. The Romo years,
you aren't lying,
and they just couldn't get over the hump. Now, it shows you how hard it's hard to get there. It really is.
Well, we can blame that on Jessica Simpson, obviously.
Of course.
And going to Cancun or whatever.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with Romo. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, going back before anything else, I mean, I kind of wanted to just go through a little bit of your career. You've done so many things. We did an intro. We're doing an intro, for this, so we'll have already kind of talked about like different things.
We will have read your resume,
but we want to go through that. I kind of wanted to just go through like your career because you've done, you're such a motivated, driven person, very clearly on paper, right? So I think our audience would love to hear a little bit about how you approach goals. First of all, when did you set a goal of becoming a pro football player?
I think I was about 8 or 9 years old when I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and that was, first of all, I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to be a baseball player. And then I knew probably around 14 years old that I wanted to be a football player. And the reason why I made the change is because I couldn't hit a curveball. I found out the hard way when I had about 12, 13 years old.
That's when they get it. That's when they get the curveball.
And I'm a project kid. I grew up in the Hinton projects, and then I moved to the Maryville area, which is in West Phoenix, which is today is still one of the poorest areas in the city. But we didn't have a lot of the luxuries of having bats and balls and gloves and getting lessons and all those things. So it took me to get to about 14 years old when we started playing better teams in baseball that I couldn't hit a curveball or a breaking ball, and it was a struggle, and I wasn't working on it. There was no YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
What position did you play in baseball?
I played short, I played center field and middle infield, and then I played mostly in the outfield.
Who were your teams as a kid?
Well, we didn't have the Diamondbacks, and we didn't have the Cardinals weren't even there when I was a kid. So I was always a Steelers fan when I was a kid. I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan in football, and then on baseball, I was always a Dodgers fan.
Oh, that's not bad.
So,
they're worse
close.
teams.
Yeah,
That's worse teams. That's fine.
But that was my deal. So I couldn't hit a baseball, but what I could do in football is I could tackle. Like, you asked me to get someone on the ground, I can get them on the ground. And it just became easy.
Yeah, how do you figure that out? I want to know, you're like, I'm going to try this
Put your helmet on, bite down on your mouthpiece, and you make a tackle. I'm serious. This is how serious I am about this. That everything I've done in my life there's always been some difficulty to it, right? The easy things have always been where I've really pushed really hard. I've excelled in because I felt like, okay, well, maybe it was easy to me, so I'm going to really push hard in this. Football was the easiest sport for me. And because it was the easiest sport for me, it became the most likable sport. And being likable, then I wanted to work hard at it. And you could say, athletes can say what they want, especially male athletes. You can say what you want. It's all about showing off, especially when you get into high school.
Yeah.
It's about showing off
your skill set.
That's where you get the validation. When everybody pumps you on the back and your teachers are like, oh,
especially
you're the
after a
greatest
big
thing.
hit. Nothing like a big hit on a Friday night.
And I was a running back as well. You score a touchdown, so the teachers would, that's all that energy that came, that positive energy that was surrounded by it, is the reason why I played at the highest level.
That's
And
so
I was
cool.
Thanks for
willing
being
to work
honest
at it.
about that.
That's
Yeah,
so
I'm just being
cool.
honest. Yeah.
Did you ever have a time where B's became A's when you had a good game?
No.
Oh, that's good.
No.
I mean, we're being honest. That's good. That's fair.
I wish those things happened, but they
Amen.
did not happen.
I know
Yeah.
that's right. I know that's right.
So when was there a hit or something in high school that kind of made you a legend? Did you have maybe a game or something?
I
where
did.
everyone
I had
went,
a game.
oh my.
So you guys will love this. I played both ways. I played, linebacker and safety, and I played running back. And I had the Phoenix, or it was actually the Arizona record for touchdowns in one game, and I think it was 5 touchdowns in a game. And it wasn't just, look, I had two guys that I played with. One played in the NFL with me. His name was Felipe Sparks. His daughter is Jordan Sparks.
Stop it.
Right. Yeah. So
What?
Felipe and I grew up together. Felipe
No
played for
way.
the Giants, got drafted the same year as I, went to Arizona State with me, got drafted by the Giants. And we had another guy that was in our backfield named Kevin Galbraith, and he was a state leading rusher at the time. He was a better running back than both of us, right? So they would get it down to the 1 or 2 yard line, and I just punch it in.
So you were the fridge?
I was the fridge, dude. I was a fullback, and I had 5 touchdowns in one game.
Were you just big? I mean, what was the deal?
No,
it was just all up
pretty
here.
good. We had a good running back set, and they never paid attention to me. So
That's amazing.
of the three, I was the least effective. So I was scoring touchdowns while I was watching.
You're the closer.
I was the closer.
So then you go into college. You went to Arizona State.
Arizona State, yeah.
And you made a mark there, right? So what was that like? What was college football for you?
College football was the first time. So when I was in high school, going into college, it was the first time I had any type of adversity that I had to overcome. I was what they called a Prop 48. So I was getting recruited by everyone in the country, and specifically in the Pac-10. But my grades in my junior, senior year were so bad that I was not focused, that when I was going to go into college, they had to put me in as a Prop 48. So Prop 48 back then meant that I could not play on the field. I had to sit out my first year and go to school, get my grades right, and then I could play my second year, which to me was, I talk about adversity and hardships and things that I've had to deal with in my life. It was the embarrassment of knowing that I was a better student than what I was showing. And I just wasn't giving any effort.
Like, you're not a dumb jock, right?
Exactly.
You
But
probably looking at yourself.
that's what I was hearing all the time.
Yeah.
Like from friends, family, you're just a dumb jock. You can't even do A, B, C, and D, right? And I knew better than that. So I got my first year at Arizona. So that's why I chose Arizona State, based on I was going to be a Prop 48. I was going to commit to USC, but I ended up going to Arizona State. I knew I was going to be close to family in that first year. And my focus was, how do I get my grades right? Mm-hmm. And my first year, straight A's. And then I ended up playing. But it was the adversity came in the fact of I was going through the embarrassment. I couldn't be around football for the first time. And I really got hyper-focused on academics.
Yeah.
I really did. But then it also showed me another life outside of just football. There were other things. I was meeting people during the football season. They were coming from different backgrounds. And I think as a whole, it made me a better person.
For sure.
Having to go
More
through that.
well-rounded.
The Lord was preparing you for the season of life that you're in now, which we'll get to in a minute. But that's a pretty cool God wink that happened to you.
Yeah.
That's
So
really cool.
1991, you get drafted. 91?
92.
92, you get drafted. And you end up on that Cowboys team. It's super young.
Yeah.
You got young Emmett, young Troy. Or Mike was there, right? I'm sure he was there, right? Yeah, Mike was there.
Yeah.
So NFL, what was that like stepping out onto? Did you have a home game the first game?
Our first, well, we had to go through the whole preseason and training camp and all. And I think that's where I really started to figure out, who I was and where I fit in, because I came into a locker room, into a football team with the Cowboys in 92, where the year before in 91, they had made it to the second round of the playoffs, and they lost to the Detroit Lions.
The worst.
And they were the worst. They were on the cusp of taking it to the next level. So I walk into the locker room, being a second round draft pick, and you can see the energy in that room. Like it was a young football team. a head coach in Jimmy Johnson who had a ton of energy, had a ton of fight, very fiery. And they were motivated to get to the next round. And I was just watching. I mean, honestly, my first year being 21 years old, I was just watching some of the great players and how they worked and how they went about their business. And there's a few guys that I can always look at now, even now, and say, man, that guy kind of changed the way that I was thinking and made me a better professional. And that one was Tony Tolbert.
Oh, yeah.
I watched Tony Tolbert for years show up every single day, not miss a practice, lead that team by not saying much, but just lead by his ways and how he approached the game. And I watched him be a pro, and I said, okay, I want to be that guy. And then watch Daryl Johnston.
Yeah, yeah.
And Daryl was a complete pro. He played everything. He was a starting fullback, didn't get a lot of credit for blocking. And then he was on all the special teams. And he just showed me another way of, hey, you show up, you do your job, and then you go home and you love your family. And I just thought that, those two guys really impacted me. And everyone always asks, well, what about Emmett and Troy? And they did. They've done, watching them all those years and watching great players, that's one. But then watching the two men that I just mentioned not only play the game, but also be good family men at the same time. That was special.
We'll call you Baby Moose.
Baby Moose.
Baby
there you
Moose.
go.
Hey, Baby Moose.
Daryl
Welcome to
like
the podcast,
that. And then
Baby
you ended
Moose.
up, I guess, taking his example on broadcasting down the line, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of us. I mean, we had so many cameras in our faces when we were playing that a lot of, you think about Troy and Daryl and Michael Irvin and Dion. I mean, Nate Newton. The list goes on and on. The guys that got into TV, and it was just for me, it was a natural transition because I wanted to stay around the game. And then going on to ESPN was just, wasn't easy. Let me tell you that. It was not easy, but it was a learning lesson for me, but it was a great time.
I can't wait to get into that part. That's what I'm most excited about.
It's funny you said you were talking about that, and it made remind me of Babe Loffenberg, who obviously became another, great on-air personality. And back when he was a backup quarterback, we were at training camp, and remember Autograph Alley, of course. I probably got one or two things signed from you back in the day, but we would stand there and we had our pins and we would catch all the guys that were coming off the field. And at one point, Babe had come over, and right as I was about to get an autograph from him, I opened a Big Red, which I don't think I've had one since then. But I mean, back when I was a kid, Big Red. Did they have that in Louisiana?
We did have Big Red. Yeah. We survived on Big Red.
Yeah, I had it I guess when my brother had thrown it to me and it shook it up, and I had a white shirt on, and it just spewed all over my shirt
during your moment.
And then right as I'm about to get an autograph signed from him, I just got red all over my shirt. So Babe just comes over and he's like, What's going on with you, kid? You can't, hit your mouth with the drink or whatever. And he just goes off on me for 30 seconds. It was the funniest thing, but thinking about Babe. But when you're in the NFL and you're, the magical first year that you guys win the Super Bowl and you're out there in Pasadena, the thing that I remember feeling as a fan was just this feeling that this was such a young team that didn't know they could lose. Right. And you guys ended up winning, was it 52-17, right? Against Buffalo.
You just know this. Did you study this?
I had T-shirts that had that. We had NFC East.
Freaking Stephen A. Smith over here. He's Rain Manning all these numbers. I'm like, did you research this? Or
I'm not
he has a tattoo in a place he's not going to discuss.
Why'd you say but
yeah.
now I got to show it.
Let's see it.
Yeah, show
it. Prove it.
It says Darren Woodson. But anyway, so we watching that, and we knew the team was good and all that, but what was that like being a part of a team going into that Super Bowl? And tell us just a little bit about that, because as a Cowboys fan, this is all we got, man. We got to go back to these three magical, And
I think everyone's perspective that played on those teams are a little different. My story was different than Michael Irvin's story. My story was, I had played a lot of football. I'd played a college season. I played in all-star games going up to the draft. I was getting ready for the draft, going through the combine. So, again, a 21-year-old kid, I'm going through the combine situation of making sure I didn't care who drafted me. I just wanted to make sure my body was intact. And there was a ton of training leading up to the combine. And then the combine and then it became the draft, and you got drafted. Then after the draft, you hit the mini camps. So it was like I was playing year-round football when everyone else had a break from whenever. If they lost in the playoffs in January, they had a break up until so long. It was continuous for me as a rookie to continue to prove myself. And then I get drafted, and then I have to prove myself in mini camp, and then we have to go to training camp in Austin. I got to prove myself and try to win a spot, and so my perspective was a little different. So I go from all that time, start the season, and I hit a wall week 7 or 8. Like there was an invisible wall because I had played so much, right? I had trained so much that I was tired, and it was those guys, the veteran guys who were lifting me up. And not only myself, but a lot of young rookies that were coming in. And we had to play a whole second half of a season. He had 16 games back then. So, I felt like I had my ups and downs. I had really good games, and I had some games where I was kind of here and mentally checked out, and guys are pulling me back and showing me how to get through those processes. And then you get into the playoffs, and it's a whole new world. In that playoff, you think about everyone that says every game's the same. No, it's not. It's not the same. Because the playoffs, the energy was lifted up. There was so much media on the sidelines. The buzz in the stadium was crazy. And then we get into the second, third round. Then we end up going to the NFC Championship when we're in Candlestick Park, which was huge. Which was a huge game. That was the Super Bowl right there. We played
they were
the Super Bowl
besides you guys.
And then it was 2 weeks, and then you play. We won that game, and there was 2 weeks, and then you played the Super Bowl. So my perspective was, man, this is a long journey.
Yeah.
It was a long journey. It was a journey of ups and downs. It was a journey of watching guys that came in with me get cut through the years. It was watching veteran players that didn't make it. They got into the months of November and had an injury and gone for the rest of the season. Like there was so many obstacles in the way of reaching that ultimate goal. And it was after winning that Super Bowl and celebrating in that locker room, man. It's like it really hit home. For me, it was emotional because it was so much time. It was so consuming. But in the end, I'm looking at a Lombardi trophy, and it was well worth it.
Do you ever? I think people completely underestimate the emotional and mental toll. Yeah. I think that's one of the beautiful things about shows like Hard Knocks is it's allowed kind of the
human.
Yeah, exactly. It humanizes people. I do have a couple questions for you. When you were going through the draft, what was your why for wanting to be drafted? Like you hear these players, my mom's been there. She's never missed a single moment. Like what was your why?
I'll get emotional talking about this, but it was like where I came from. I had so many ups and downs, and I can still remember like being a kid and being with my buddies, and we had like 6 or 7 buddies, and we sit there and we watch these cars. We're West Side kids. We watch these cars drive by, and we're like, that's my car. That's my car. Like, you see a jalopy, but that's my car. It's a nice car, right? So I always wanted to get out. I always knew that there was more into life than just living on 39th Avenue in Thomas. Like there was so much more. I didn't have a lot of heroes that came around. I didn't have doctors and professionals and, attorneys and all that. No one came around. So I didn't know anything until I got into college. And that's why I say my first year in college really opened my eyes to what life was all about. But the draft was, how do I get out of the financial circumstances that I'm in? How do I become the first person in my family? And I have a long line of family members, a huge family. Yeah. How do I become the first person that gets to this point and then protects his financial wealth and then brings everyone else up at the same time?
You break that. You break the generational
curse that was at hand, right?
And now your lower third just became hero 39th and Thomas because now you are that for somebody else. Think about,
Absolutely.
I want to take you there though, because now think about the hope that you've now ignited.
Yeah.
In the kid that's sitting where you were.
And it's the same kid that's not just in Phoenix, but in Dallas and all over the country that I want to speak to.
Amen.
It's the same kid. God used me.
That's right.
And it's my turn to turn around and be that vessel for that young man or young woman that was in the same boat.
That's so good. Yeah. That's so good. And the hope you bring to Cowboys fans worldwide who haven't seen a Super Bowl probably since we're talking about
Always
this.
hope. You got to stay optimistic.
Yeah.
So you have this spectacular career, one of the most admirable careers because of your longevity. You're still the tackle leader, correct?
Yeah. I mean, sure that.
1,500.
Someone's going to break it. I mean,
but man, it's
safety
way
to have
there.
that record. A linebacker's going to break that at some point.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, it's incredible. I mean, that was the thing, is like you just showed up. How did you carry that same work ethic into the next challenge in your life, which is being a broadcaster?
I think football trained me for that. I think athletics have always trained me for life after football. And some guys don't take advantage of it. You know, there are a lot of guys that, you know, you can just look at the stats, and a lot of players, they go broke, or they go through certain situations. But what football did prepare me for was losses. You know, there's a lot of wins. I won 3 Super Bowls, but everyone forgets all the losses that we had as well. And how do you overcome those losses? Like, who are you going to be? What character is going to show up the next day after a loss? Who's that person, right? And that's, for me, I'm used to the criticism. I'm used to the armchair quarterbacks, including you, Kevin, and you, Ashley. You know, criticizing me during the game, after the game, my coaches criticizing my own players, friends, family criticizing me, and being able to overcome the criticism and say, okay, I'm going to work that much harder the next day, right? That's life.
Yeah. That
is life. So as an athlete, yeah, you watch guys like a LeBron James, they take all this criticism, whether you love him or you hate him, he has all this criticism, and it prepares him for what he wants to accomplish later on, because he knows those voices and those critics that are out there, they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. They don't work out with me in the morning. They don't show up and watch film with me every single day. They don't show up at the office with me every single day and put that time in and then give back to the community. The critics aren't there with me. They don't know my heart, right? Only I know that. So if I know that, I can overcome anything.
It's so good.
And it's just a mental understanding of who you are, and stop listening to everyone else criticize who you are when you know wholeheartedly who you are.
Is that something that every athlete, kind of a sorority or fraternity of athletes, understands?
No, like not everyone understands that.
So, you know, Simone Biles, for instance, who we just had Carly Patterson on our podcast, you know, amazing Olympic gold medalist. And we were kind of asking, Ashley was asking about that. You know, Simone Biles, same thing, where, you know, she's obviously was roundly criticized in 21 for the twisties thing that she went through. And, you know, you could tell it rattled her. Like, I mean, she clearly, like, in the last few weeks, you know, especially when she won, she was snapping back at that other Michaela or whoever it was. And there you go. And you could tell it's like a lot of like, you know, I want to get back and all that. But like, when you see different athletes reacting to criticism in different ways, what is it that you can tell that they've like figured that out, how to overcome that?
I think the guys that are quiet, the guys who you see they're kind of like, okay, I get it, and understand it, handle it in a professional manner, and then you see them bounce back. Those are the guys.
So like who comes to mind?
Like Patrick Mahomes. I've watched Patrick Mahomes over there. Tom Brady, another one. I've watched Steph Curry through his process and how much criticism he's taken, just watching his story coming out of high school and then having to go to Davidson and people not, you know, criticizing for his height and all these obstacles that he had in his way. And it's a mindset. And I don't think it's any different for an athlete or a CEO or just someone working a 9-to-5. If you truly believe in you, and you truly believe in your work ethic and your core values and what you laid out there, if you just believe, because, you know, my mom used to have this saying a long time ago. I'll give you one of my mama sayings.
That's the best.
But she used to always say, ain't nobody gonna love you like you. And it's the truth.
Next tattoo, Kevin.
It is the honest truth. She used to say it just like that. Ain't nobody gonna love you like you, because in the darkest moments, people aren't there. My mom wasn't on that football field with me when it was 4th and inches and it was a 14-play drive. It's me.
Right.
I have to perform. And I got to fall back on all the lessons that I've learned and all the film work and all the little things to make a play because no one else is going to be there for you. And it's the same thing with me every day. I show up for work at Cressa, my commercial real estate firm.
Shout out.
And I have to be there because it's my duty to be there. It's my job. It's like my heart is on the line.
Yeah.
My reputation is on the line. Yeah, there's, we have 800 brokers, but at the same time, as a leader, I have to show who I am. I have to overcome. When we lose, it's not everybody else's fault. It's my fault. It's on me.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you grow as a person. It's okay to lose sometimes.
That's right. That's right.
So what did you learn through that loss?
You started from the bottom and over here. Yeah. I have a question for you. So shows like Hard Knocks have taught us a lot about the adversity and the physical, emotional, mental challenges of the sport. People don't know this about ESPN. They don't know this about broadcast journalism. They don't know this about all the amazing things that you did on camera. I want to talk about that for a second because you don't ever get to see that perspective. People aren't pulling back the curtain on what you go through. That's my degree is in that. That's my passion, right? That's like what I've been blessed to do that for a short period of time. But people genuinely think that you wake up, somebody does your hair and makeup, hands you your free clothes, you sit down in front of that camera, they've prepped you, you have everything. Let's talk about how hard that job really is. Oh my God,
I was terrible. Honest to God, Ashley, I was the worst. And I thought, I took it for granted because I just felt like, okay, well, I'll make the transition. All we're doing is talking football.
I think Jason Witten was the worst.
But don't start. Don't start. See,
Troy was kind of.
Wait, does this mean you're going to play again? Are you coming out of retirement? Is this your Witten moment?
No,
we're going to send a clip to him.
I love him. Walter Payton, I mean, what a great guy. But yeah, it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It really is because I walked in thinking, okay, I knew everything about football. I can talk X's and O's and from a defensive standpoint and how the offense is going to approach the defense. And those things were easy for me. What was hard was the preparation of remembering all the names, the GMs, the owners, you got to know. And then it's not like I'm just learning the team that I'm playing against, the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the Baltimore Ravens who weren't in my division when I first got. So I had to learn all those names. And it's so much information that you have to digest. And you digest all this information, and then there's breaking news, and you've learned all this information for this week, and you think you're going to be talking about it, and then breaking news comes, and it's a totally different deal. You better be on your game.
And you want to talk about keyboard warriors.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting then into social media. Yes. Like that's a whole different type of pressure.
And you better know the game. Yeah, we used to watch film all the time. Like ESPN used to send us the film of every single game. And I can remember it being the week 15, and it's the Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they both won 2 games. And you better have watched that game because you get on the radio, someone's going to call in from Jacksonville and say, hey, do you remember that play such and such? And if you're sitting on the radio, you better remember that play.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that really inspired me to say, man, I gotta get on my game.
Yeah. What analyst just impressed you at having that kind of knowledge?
I have a few of them. One was Stink. I don't know if you know Mark Schlereth. Mark Schlereth was there at ESPN. He and Trey Wingo brought me up. They brought me up. I mean, when I first got there, they said, you need to go get a coach. So I went and got a guy named Tony Martinez.
Okay.
All right. So first day on the set, which I wasn't supposed to be on the set because I didn't have my contract finalized, but Jerry Rice had retired. And ESPN asked me if I would, I was just actually there just to view the show. And they asked me to come on. And I came on. First time being in front of the camera, and my God, it was rough. It was a rough, and we got done, and Trey Wingo said, okay, I got a guy. This is what you're going to do.
Man.
And I just took it. I was like, okay, yeah, all right. I go. And Tony Martinez was a guy locally here who's worked with us forever here. He worked with Romo and everyone else. But I got with Tony, but I had to learn where to look at the cameras and how to present and look when I'm looking here or, I didn't know about an ear. They had an earpiece in my ear. And I was like, why is this guy telling me to rap? And what does rap mean?
Right. It's wild.
So I had to go through this whole learning curve all over again. But I could see myself get better and better. And the hardest thing for me, Ashley, and this might have been for you as well, was watching myself.
Oh my gosh, I hate it.
And hearing my own voice.
It's the worst.
That was the worst.
I'm like, give her subtitles and tell her stop doing that. Like, you see all these things that you do and you're like, why do you do that? And then you overthink it. No, I totally agree with you. I think too, and then you kind of turn into this person, and this is truly my thing. Like, this is where I feel safe. The second the lights and the cameras turn off, it's harder for me then.
Really?
It's wild.
Huh.
It's wild how that works. But
Man, not me. I could go crawl in a hole and be just fine.
no, you stop it. But I do. Okay, I want to ask you the most honest question ever of all time, and you pinky promise you'll tell the truth.
I promise you I'll tell the truth.
Okay.
Go ahead. I pinky promise.
Do you also mute Chris Collingsworth when he is?
No.
What?
No.
Lies.
Look, I like Collins. Look, I have a ton of respect for anyone that gets up there.
Yeah.
I really do, because I called games in NFL Europe when I was playing. So they had the NFL Europe League, and I flew over there twice with Fox and called games during the time I was playing.
Like, when you weren't playing, you were in the booth.
So our season ended, and as in the NFL, and I went over there in that off season, and I called NFL Europe games, and I was terrible. Like, terrible. So I know what that feels like to go play by play. So when I see Jason Witten or a Troy or Daryl Johnson get up there and call those games, I know how difficult that is.
I think Romo might be the best we've ever had, though. His predictability in the way, I know it turns a lot of people off in the way of, let me say this, besides you, obviously. When Tony says something like, hey, I bet next time he's going to do this, a lot to people get turned off by that, but I love it.
I love that too. I mean, I love it too.
Why the funny look, Darren?
Huh? Because there's a number 8 that's pretty good. He's damn good.
That's fair.
He's really good at what he's doing.
Hey, but back in the day, we used to make fun of Troy for his Acme brick commercials.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I'm Troy Aikman. And he was the worst. And so no one thought that he would become what he did. But that's the thing. Great coaching. He took that same mindset. I think that's why so many of you guys do so well in the booth. It's like you said earlier.
Well, I would have never have
thought
that Troy was going to be this good. I really wouldn't, because Troy is very reserved. Didn't speak that much, even to the guys he knew. But when he got on TV, I just thought, man, this is he's very, very good at explaining situations throughout the game. Same with Tony. Tony came in. I kind of knew Tony was going to be good because Tony talked the game all the time.
Yeah,
This wasn't anything new to him, right? He knew situations. He knew both offense and the defensive side of the ball. He'd ask me a million questions about what I was looking at on the defensive side of the ball, and would sit in my locker and say, hey, okay, so if this happens, how are you going to react to this as a safety and blah, blah. So he kind of knew Tony was going to be like, he's going to be a natural in doing what he's done. And he's done a great job as well. Man, I'm proud to watch these guys get up there every weekend.
Troy just grabs that mic and makes it disappear in his hands. It's like a little baby mic. He's holding a little lapel mic.
I got a couple more football questions here. We got other things to cover too, but what was it like when Charles Haley came to town? Because he was a wild card. So for the audience who doesn't know, Charles Haley was a troubled lineman, defensive lineman with San Francisco. Everyone thought, this guy's crazy. I don't know. And then the Cowboys like to take chances, I mean, Jerry, God bless him, he would take a chance on some guys. He brings Charles in, and then he just blossomed within the system and within the team. So what was that dynamic like?
Oh, he is crazy, but crazy in a good way. So Charles came in the same year I came in 1992. So that trade with the 49ers, he came in and he was new to the system just like I was. I watched him, and it'd probably be a better question teed up for a guy that was there years before without Charles. All I knew was Charles. All I knew was who he was. And his presence absolutely changed the way offenses looked at it, because you always had to figure out which side of the ball he was, where he was going to line up, because he was a nightmare. You couldn't just block him one-on-one. It was kind of like that Micah Parsons thing where you got to find him, find out where he is, because you got to chip him. You got to slide your protection that way. You got to put a back over there for him. And we knew that Charles is going to demand so much attention, so we could game plan around it. And that was the luxury of having Charles. Yeah, was he dynamic? Absolutely. But did he make the game easier for the rest of us? Absolutely. He was a phenomenal, and still is. He's a great, good man, and played really well on Sundays.
That's fun. Yeah. Okay, so when you were playing, I'm gonna throw out a couple names here. The guys that you may or may not have tackled that we always heard were terrible to tackle. Christian Okoye, Nigerian Nightmare.
I never played against him.
Never played against him?
Never played against him.
Barry Sanders?
By far, nightmares before the game. Like, you didn't sleep. You did not sleep when we played the Detroit Lions. And it was because as a safety or a linebacker or anyone on the defensive side, space is not your friend. No, I'm serious. Like, if there is space and Barry Sanders is there, it's not your friend. He will embarrass you. You will be an ESPN highlight, hands down, right? So the night before, I used to think, my God, I got to tackle him in a box. Like, if we're this tight, I'm fine. I can deal with him, right? But if I get him out and he gets me out in space, and I played in space a lot, and I was a very good tackler, but when you got a guy like Barry, he's so dynamic as far as stop and start and then accelerating through plays, and you watch him on film, you're like, oh my God. And it was not only just watching him on film, but my fear was more of, I didn't want to be a highlight because my brothers, Randy and Todd, and I have three really good friends that will call me after games and say, my God, I'm serious. Like, your friends, your family and friends, they are brutally honest with you, right?
They keep you grounded.
I didn't want to be that. I didn't want my phone to ring and say, hey, man, you're an ESPN highlight, or this and this and that, right? So I didn't want to hear all the trash talking, but he was as phenomenal a running back as there was in the league. And I played with a guy in Emmitt Smith where I saw him every day, every single day. Now, I could not hit Emmitt because I get cut if I hit Emmitt, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about an all-around back, like all around, pass blocking, running the football, doing all the little grimy little things, understanding the game. Emmitt was, he's the all-time leading rusher. He's considered the greatest running back to play this game of football. So I saw a lot of guys. Marshall Faulk's another one. Saw a lot of really dynamic running backs.
That's so cool.
Who else did you have to face, like maybe a receiver that just absolutely, did you have any like rivals?
Jerry Rice.
So you and Jerry.
Oh my God. Jerry, people I came in the league and I had to cover. I was a safety that I covered. I was a nickel guy. So when any team with the three wide receivers, I covered the slot receiver. And they would move Jerry into the slot, and my God, like he a phenomenal route runner. Everything looked the same. Like, a go route looked like a stop route, slant route looked like an out. Like his body control was so dynamic that it was hard to judge him. And again, he's the all-time leading, pass catcher in NFL history, right? So he brought that, but he blocked. He did all those little things, like similar to Emmitt, right? But then there was a guy that came in the league that was so dang good that I hate giving him credit. I do. There's a couple of guys, but in Minnesota, who did the Vikings draft? Randy Moss. Who were the Cowboys supposed to draft? Randy Moss. So we didn't draft him. He went to the Vikings, and every time he saw us, he had to put up big numbers.
You got mossed.
We got mossed all the time. Man, he was a guy that you could have him, unlike Jerry, if you have Jerry covered, Steve Young's not going to look at him. You could have Randy Moss covered. They're going to just throw it up, and he's going to go get it.
Yep.
And he's another guy he kind of changed the game. That's why you saw the Randy Moss, and then you saw the T.O.s of the world, who was another phenomenal football player. The Calvin Johnson. So Randy Moss started this whole breed of tall, go up and get it, basketball
cyborgs.
Yeah. That's where it started. So, those are the two guys, and I would say T.O. is in there. Calvin Johnson is in there, somewhere in there.
So sick.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch Randy talk.
on TV.
You need subtitles, but it's been super fun to watch him. And I mean, thank God his son helped me win a national championship at LSU. Praise the Lord.
Is he still in the league or is he somewhere?
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But it's been fun. I'm like, Randy Moss made me feel like a normal person needing subtitles for people to talk.
Oh my God. Yeah,
He's
you get
so
that
fun.
country twang,
He's
that
so
West
fun
Virginia
to watch.
twang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, look, I know we don't have you all day, but I do think it's important. We put this really cool call out to our social media channels and just say, if you could ask him anything, what would you want to know?
Okay.
And the recurring theme I kept seeing, especially coming in this morning, I feel like people got bolder the closer we got to our recording date, but they were wanting to know, what would you say to kind of this era of the Cowboys team and fan? It's rough.
Show up every day.
Tough.
If I'm talking to the players, and I've done this many a time, show up every single day, because the greatest quality you could have as an NFL player or anyone, even in my office every day, is if you're available. Then you just show up. See, a lot of people in the off season won't show up for the workouts
Or to training camp.
Well, I get that part. I kind of
Same.
get CD.
Same.
I get CD Lamb's situation where you get hurt, they ain't paying you.
I know.
So, but being available is so important at any level. And I think a lot of the young guys kind of don't attribute that to success. They kind of say, okay, well, I'm here. I can, maybe I don't have to make it this day, and maybe I don't. If you're not consistent, the coaches are going to see your inconsistencies, right? Being consistent and a coach watching you every single day and saying, okay, I don't have to worry about, Micah Parsons, because I know every day he's going to show up, get his workout in, make sure he gets his protein drinks in, make sure he's on time for the meetings. I don't have to worry about that young man. It's the people you have to worry about all the time that really puts a lot of pressure on you, and that's how you get cut.
Yeah.
Because the level in the NFL of talent, the talent level is so close across the board. It's so close. So I can always make a decision. Decide, well, I don't want to have to deal with your problems, so move on. And it's the same way in my office. It's the same way in corporate America. If I feel like the level of talent between my brokers are about the same, but one is more of a problem than the other, or doesn't show up, or is inconsistent, he's gone.
Yeah, you're hired for character, trained for skill.
That's right.
Yep. That's so
I love
good.
That.
Okay, anything else? Super fan over here,
a couple
tattoo
quick
fan?
ones. You have 4 kids and you love mentoring young people, as you've said, and have proven with your life. What lesson do you want your kids to remember that you taught them?
Showing up is one. Look, I'm a man of faith. So, every day it's, love the Lord with all your heart and fear the Lord with all your heart as well. Right. So that's one for my kids. But as far as individually, love themselves. I think a lot of us don't love ourselves enough, and we get off track by hearing the criticisms that are out there about ourselves, or we're watching someone else on social media and we think, oh, we got to match what they're doing. No, love you. Mm-hmm. And that's where it starts. And I'm always every day I try to get a workout in early in the morning. I have an 8-year-old, Judea. And every day I try to get a workout early in the morning so I can make him breakfast, and then I can drop him off at school. It's like something I need to do. Yeah. I need to eat breakfast with him, and I need to drop him off at school. Mm-hmm. But in that car ride every day, it's, hey, man, you need to lead. You need to love yourself. Get over it. It's okay. So, but that's, and I haven't always been, I can sit here and tell you, I haven't always had those qualities, because I have a 30-year-old son, 26-year-old daughter, 22-year-old son, and an 8-year-old. And I've learned so much on this path to how to parent. It took me this long to really feel like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, because I wasn't that good early on.
Isn't it the best job you've ever had?
It is. It is. And it's crazy, because you're in it and you don't realize how influential you are to your babies. You really don't.
Yep. It makes me so emotional to think about that.
So
it's my favorite title. There's nothing better in this world than being
That's right.
Building a house brick by brick, really.
Heck yeah.
When you're lying in a hammock and you're thinking, which I'm sure you do all the time, right?
This is such a weird question. Let's just start with that.
I just like this metaphor, so I'm going with it, all right?
Well, you're lying in a hammock.
What kind of hammock?
When you're, it's a nice wide hammock. It's got a couple anchors. It's not one that pinches you up like a soft taco.
It's getting weirder.
More like when you find it at a nice Hawaiian resort.
Kevin, we may need to get off the hammock.
All right. So we're getting off the hammock.
When you're chilling.
You and I are laying on the hammock together.
It's weird.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
He actually has a Kevin tattoo.
Okay.
Drink.
When you're thinking about your future, what at this point, because you've done so many things in your life, what gets you fired up?
Watching those that I'm mentoring accelerate and become better people and reach their goals. I think that's like so fulfilling. Like, of course, I have my own goals, and every single day I'm pushing hard for my own goals. But then, pouring into young men or women, and then watching them go through situations, whether they've had to overcome personal issues or family issues, and then they get through high school, get an education, go to college and get an education, start their first job. And I work with my group is C5 Texas, and we mentor kids all the way through from seventh grade all the way through high school and then beyond, even in college. And our goal is every kid that comes through our program, every one of them will go to college. Wow. Hands down. They're going to college, right?
That's cool.
And that's been, to me, that's been so inspiring, and that wakes me up in the morning. But also watching my own babies go through life as well, and just being a father and trying to encourage them as well. And them trying to encourage me through things also, as well.
As a believer in this crazy, chaotic world that we live in, what gives you hope?
I know every day God's got me, got my back. Every day, every morning when I wake up, and Tyler and Ben and I, Tyler Klutz and Ben Gibbs, we used to do a podcast, and you talk about God's favor. Like, I can look at Tyler's eyes and look at Ben's eyes and just know that, every day that if I'm not doing my own, if I'm not reading on my own, and if I don't have building my own relationship with God, he just, through their eyes, I could see like he's moving in their lives. I better be doing my own. But at the same time, I just feel like that's, just knowing that that he has my back through all these situations. So why worry?
That's so good. Oh, that's
last thing. Brag about your wife for a second.
Oh, she's awesome, man. She's a much better person than I am. My wife, Tiffany, owns Incanoro, which is a design architect firm here in Dallas, and she works all over the country. She does a lot of hospitality, a lot of multifamily around the country, and she inspires me because she works harder than I do. I know that. Like, it's every single day. But my kids see it. Yeah. They see her working every day and getting through and having these discussions with employees, or I won't say employees because she doesn't call them that. She calls her partners. So all her partners in within her firm, and it's inspiring because we're kind of in the same industry. I'm in the real estate industry. She's on the design side. So sometimes we cross paths, but she's a hard worker, man. She's awesome.
Well, Darren, thank you for your time and your character and your heart. We'd love to have you back. I know you're a busy person.
I'm right down the street.
We'll come knock on the door.
Let's get through a few games, especially that first home opener, and we'll have you back.
Oh yeah. Who do the Cowboys have that first?
Who dat? We'll see. I'll let you know. It TBD on what happens with us.
Just going to mow right through the Saints right now.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm believing.
Hey, thanks to Brad Struck, our mutual friend, for bringing us together to be able to do this today.
We love Tyler so much.
Good guys over at Cressa for sure.
Look, I just want to make sure we leave on a high note. Somebody once offered me this advice: ain't nobody gonna love you
like you.
Got it tattooed.
Like you. You got a
tattoo. Next tattoo. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. We'll see you next time right here at Hope Ignited.
Bye, everyone.